get into the big topic of open source, something that we actually say at Red Hat.
This is so awesome.
We are an open culture that believes in
What is that process that a developer, or let's say
as the Kubernetes ecosystem really boomed?
Welcome to In the Clouds. I'm your host, Stu Miniman. And before we get started, just want to say a quick note for those in Florida and the Southeast in the United States. Hope that everyone stays safe as Hurricane Ian is moving through the area. It's scary to look a little bit online. Definitely disrupting some travel and causing quite a bit of damage. But today we're going to be doing another preview show. Last week we had a good discussion of KubeCon, which I'll be attending in Detroit next month. And this week we're going to be talking about AnsibleFest. So I want to welcome to the program Tom Anderson. He is the Vice President and General Manager for the Ansible business unit at Red Hat. Tom, you've got your big show, AnsibleFest, or Fest as we just call it, internally to Red Hat, happening in Chicago, October 18th and 19th, I believe. Thanks so much for joining me.
Yeah, thanks, Stu. Great to be here. Great to be with you. And we're really excited about our first in-person Ansible Fest since 2019. So it's been like 3 years. Last couple of years, we've had purely virtual events, which have been great. Been able to open the aperture for a lot more people in different time zones and different areas to be able to attend. So it's been a good kind of bridge, if you will. But this year's hybrid event, we're really geeked up about getting people back on site again for the event, and excited to see everybody, bring our customers, our users, our community members, our partners all together for this in-person event in Chicago. We're very excited.
Awesome. Tom, let's step back for a second. I think back, 2019, you and I were both at the Atlanta event. We both had different titles. I was working at a different company back then, doing the Cube. I interviewed you as well as many of the Ansible people, customers, and partners at Fest in Atlanta in 2019. But for our audience, give us a little bit of background. You did not, if I have it right, come from the Ansible acquisition. You've been with Red Hat for a while, but you've been involved in watching since back in 2015 that acquisition of Ansible. So give us the journey as to what led you to become the GM of that business unit.
Yeah, so I joined Red Hat through another acquisition, through the acquisition of a really small company called ManageIQ back in 2013. And so I have a really long history in automation, configuration management, systems management, going back a lot of years. And so when I joined Red Hat back in 2013, I ended up first starting to work in our cloud service provider program, or what we now call CCSP, where we work with our partners to be able to not only sell Red Hat products through these cloud partners, but also allow them to build cloud offerings on top of our technology. So that was a great experience. That was my introduction to Red Hat. And then I ended up building our first OpenStack Tiger team back in the really early days of OpenStack, if you can imagine how wild and woolly it was in 2014. So assembling a group of really smart people to help our customers adopt OpenStack as they were building their private clouds, what we used to call private clouds back in those days. And then after a tour of duty on that, which was really fun, I moved into what we used to call the management business unit at Red Hat that included a number of products: our satellite product that helps system manage RHEL, our Insights Analytics, CloudForms, which was the ManageIQ acquisition product. And then in 2016, I guess 15 or 16, October 16, we acquired Ansible. And a couple of years later, I started working on the Ansible team, kind of leading up the product management efforts and the partner efforts. And then last year, or earlier this year, our general manager, Joe Fitzgerald, left Red Hat to go do a new startup. He's a serial entrepreneur and went off to do that. And I was given the opportunity to lead the business, which I love. It's a great team. The community is fantastic. The business is wonderful. It's really an enjoyable thing. Stu, long career, systems management was usually decisions were made by executives that would force questionable technology down on the practitioners to implement in their environment. This is different. Ansible is like bottoms up, like people actually like using it. The practitioners actually enjoy using it. So it's actually fun to go out and talk to customers and engage with the community, because it isn't just set of complaints like it has been in my past. So it's been really great.
Yeah, Tom, absolutely. I think back through, my career, and there's been interesting ebbs and flows about how practitioners have thought about automation. Definitely, it's been, huge growth over the last 5 years, and definitely something that is embracing. And it's not just point solutions anymore. And we're going to get into the tech discussion in a bit, but let's talk first about the show. Coming to Chicago, what should people be expecting? What are you excited about? Bringing the community together again in person.
Yeah, so it's a 2-day event with an ancillary third day. So October 18th and 19th is the main session. We have 2 main themes that we're driving: automation for today, and the second theme is automation for tomorrow. So the automation for today stuff, we're really wanting to help users kind of connect automation across their enterprise, across their domains. We have lots and lots of organizations that automation starts, let's say, in the network team, and it grows up organically. A couple of people on the network team find Ansible, download the community version, start using it to automate their day, the tasks that they do day to day. People that sit around them start using it. Pretty soon that team uses it. Now it grows up into the whole network team is using Ansible as their core automation product. But when it jumps the fence from domain to domain, from network to compute, or compute to storage, or storage to database, or cloud, or edge, or whatever, security ops, whatever those domains are, when it jumps that fence, that's where the real value starts to come in through automation. So we're driving a lot of content on automating for today to help those customers really accelerate their automation journey, which is, we got lots of great examples from existing customers, from partners, stories of engagement with our customers about what we see as the success factors for accelerating automation. Then the day 2, automating for tomorrow, we're going to introduce a lot of innovation that's taking place in the community right now. We see a lot of innovation around day 2 operations. So a lot of automation has really been about provisioning over the last number of years, right? Infrastructure as code. How easy is it to provision some infrastructure so my developers can get going and test and deploy an application on? That's great. There's been a lot of work done with that. In some ways, that's a little bit of settled law. I think the next wave for automation here to really take a lot of the manual menial tasks out of operations is the day 2 stuff, responding to events, alerts, security stuff, performance, whatever it is, kind of really automating day 2 ops. So we're really focused on that second day around innovation that we have in the community. The third thing, the ancillary event, which is just as important as those 2 days, is we have our contributor summit on Monday the 17th. So we bring our contributors in and have a really great day around what trends they see and what things they need from the community in order to be more productive, if you will, or more engaged. And then we have a partner day as well on the 17th, where we bring in both our technology and our business partners to have a conversation around what could Red Hat be doing to help them, what could they be doing to help the community, et cetera. So it's really a 3-day event with those 4 different segments.
Well, yeah, and of course the contributor summit highlighting the fact that Ansible it's open source, so that is something Red Hat's always done a great job of continuing and growing the community and the breadth from the practitioners that are contributing, the partner activity that's happening there. Tom, you were talking about that day 2 operations really resonated with kind of the world I live in, being in the cloud and OpenShift world. So what can we expect, not just from the Ansible product line, but, how does that intersect with, the broader, Red Hat overall and the portfolio that we have?
Yeah, I mean, like you, I attend EBCs and spend a lot of time with our customers. And one of the kind of constant themes we hear from customers is help us automate faster, help us automate more broadly. How do we bring these kind of pockets of automation in our organization together? So they're asking for a lot of help on that. And kind of the 3 themes that I talk about a lot with these customers, whether it's at EBC or in individual customer accounts, are those success factors that I heard about, that I mentioned earlier, which is thinking of everything as code, not just infrastructure as code, but ops as code. It's really not just about a shift left, but it's thinking about code and getting an operations team to start thinking like software developers. We're not asking them to be software developers. We're asking them to think like software developers, to start using the tools that software developers do, to create and manage automation as code, right? So thinking about things like Git repos, peer reviews, check in, check out, all of those other things that help an organization really manage automation in a much more structured way. That's one. Two is really helping an organization with a kind of a top-down initiative for automation first, an automation first culture or mindset, and what we can do with the product to help accelerate that. And last but not least, and I hear this a lot, which is our organization doesn't have the skills that it needs, and we don't have the time to upskill them. We're trying as hard as we can to retain the talent that we have and attract new talent, regardless of what's going on right now in the economy. I still hear from people that it's a very tight labor market, and skills retention and attracting skills is a really important thing. So how can we upskill our organization? So we talk a lot about communities of practice. We take an open source community principle and bring that down into an enterprise of how they can share best practices, templates, skills, what have you, inside an organization. So we talk about those three things, and then we connect it to our portfolio. How can we accelerate the adoption and the spread of RHEL, if you will? How can we make it more secure? How can we make it more manageable? Same thing with OpenShift. OpenShift is a platform, not the platform in our customers. For the most part, they want to connect their applications and their infrastructure that is OpenShift to their other systems of record, to their networks, to their security systems. How do you do a great job of that? You use Ansible as that glue between those different systems in an organization. So that's a long-winded answer for you, Stu, but there's a lot of stuff in there that we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, and Tom, absolutely. When I'm in the customer briefings, that skill set, finding, retaining, upskilling people is a huge challenge for everyone. We say even us at Red Hat, we're hiring and looking for people with the right skill set. One of the things we've been doing, Red Hat overall, is the growth of our managed service offerings. So I know earlier this year, Ansible, you had, I believe it was at Summit, the announcement with Azure and the Ansible automation platform. How's that going? What are you hearing from customers? And anything you can share about just the cloud angles that we should expect to hear at Fest?
Yeah. So we launched Ansible on Azure. The official name is the Red Hat Ansible Automation Platform on Microsoft Azure. It rolls right off your tongue. So we launched that service in I guess it was April at Red Hat Summit, and it's been great. It is what Microsoft refers to as a managed application. So it's not quite a managed service, and it's not quite self-managed. It's somewhere in the middle, and it's been great. The customers that have onboarded really like the idea that Red Hat is looking after the automation infrastructure, and they just worry about doing automating the tasks that they need to do their job. And that combines with the financials of it, which is, having it come just on their Azure bill, right? Their consumption-based use of the product coming on their Azure bill. Not to kind of get out in front of announcements at AnsibleFest, but we have our friends from AWS will be attending the conference with us and will be on stage with us at the conference. So our intention here and our roadmap for Ansible is availability through the marketplaces of the three hyperscalers this year, or the three main hyperscalers this year. And then next year, kind of moving towards a much more managed service set of offerings across those same platforms, relying probably on Arrow and ROSA and whatnot. So a lot of good stuff going on with the cloud providers. And there'll be a couple of really good sessions. AWS and Azure both have sessions about accelerating automation in the clouds with Ansible. So those would be a couple of great sessions at Fest for folks to kind of tune into.
Yeah, definitely something I always look at. Those cloud providers, something I spend quite a bit looking at. Since you brought it up, and they've got sessions, what else from kind of a partner ecosystem? And one of the things I'm always happy to see is usually Red Hat, we've got a lot of customers sharing their stories. Nothing better than peers hearing from their peers about technology. So any other key ones you want to highlight?
Yeah, I mean, like you, the best part of these conferences to me are the customer sessions. The vendor sessions are interesting, and I like to go to those. But the ones I really want to hear from are the customer sessions. And AnsibleFest is always big on customer sessions. We really weight it towards customer sessions versus our own folks delivering content. So there's a lot of good ones. There's a really good session from TransUnion, the consumer credit I didn't realize just how big that business was. They have like 1 billion customers across 100, like 100, maybe even 200, 170, whatever it is, countries. Just an enormous business that they have historically, like most people, have been running on-prem. And this is about adopting an enterprise-wide automation strategy and implementation of Ansible as they move into the cloud. So not just the migration of their infrastructure and applications to the cloud, but using Ansible as that common abstraction platform that they can automate for both their infrastructure owners as well as their application developers for deploying applications using the same automation language, regardless of where that infrastructure is running or where they want that application to run. So it's a really good session, and they really talk about their journey of how they got from where they were to where they are today. A lot of it, the Red Hat consulting folks really help them put together internal communities of practice to spread the skills throughout their organization. Again, TransUnion's have been around for a very, very long time, so they have that same skills challenge that we've talked about before. How do we upskill our organization? How do we spread these skills across these different domains? So there's a lot of their content that's going to be coming out around that. So that's a really interesting one. And so we have a lot of that theme with all of our customers, not all, but a lot of our customer sessions is about how do they adopt cloud without creating yet another silo or domain in their organization, right? How do we bring these things together into an IT infrastructure that is cloud, data center, edge, and how does Ansible help them achieve that with a common abstraction layer for automation?
Awesome. Tom, one of the themes I really heard back when I attended 2019 was Ansible gives different people in the organization views into what's happening. So, the product owner, the one actually working on the technology, as an analyst, I actually wrote, it's like, hey, can software actually help try to break down some of the barriers that we've been talking about with things like DevOps? So I guess the question I have for you is, who's the audience? What were some of the key, job titles that are attending? Do you have different tracks for different type of people that come? Is it more hoodies? Or some of the business people also coming?
Yes, that's a great question. There'll be a lot of hoodies there, right? We focus a lot on the folks that are the doers. They are the people that are writing the automation, people that are running the automation. So there's a lot of content for practitioners. That's probably the bulk of the audience. I'm not going to lie and say this is nothing but CIOs roaming the halls. There are a lot of practitioners there. We have dozens of labs. So we really leaned into labs this year, really making it a worthwhile investment for them to come to Chicago, in-person labs, training facilities, all that kind of stuff. So lots of content for practitioners. And generally our practitioners fall into people that create, like I said, creators, the builders of the automation content itself, the consumers of that. Who are those consumers? Your QE teams, your developers, your security ops teams. Those are the sort of the users of that stuff. And then lastly, the architects who are kind of designing the implementation, the strategy for automation across an enterprise. So that's kind of leans towards the technical side. Then we have lots of content for the business people. Like I said, a lot of the customers who come and present really are talking about their journey and what are the challenges they face, not just technical challenges, but what were the cultural challenges inside an organization. Automation is one of those kind of words that can trigger different emotions from different people. Like back in the day, you remember this too, back in the day, automation was, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose my job to automation, right? That was, go back a number of years. And I still hear that in some parts of the world today, but generally speaking, that has gone. And now the cultural shift is, do I have the skills to sort of keep up with where they want me to be and where I need to be to do my job on a day-to-day basis? So a lot of the content that we bring is that sort of, what are the challenges they face culturally, and how did they implement this automation, and how did they get their teams on board, and what were the results of getting their teams on board, and what were the mistakes they made and the potholes they stepped in. So I think there's a lot of content for both managers and practitioners, or the hoodies, as you call them.
Yeah. So Tom, I guess that brings up kind of a key question. So, automation, right, used to be, I took a process that maybe I spent a lot of time and, I automated that. So one of the things, how do I integrate automation into kind of, my broader activities, including my management tools that we have?
Yeah. So two things. One, from a technology perspective, the Ansible automation platform without the integrations into other tools is basically a one-handed clap, right? It's not useful. So all of our kind of partner integrations, whether it's Cisco or F5 or CyberArk or Azure or Google or NetApp, and I don't want to leave anybody out, Dynatrace, whoever it is that writes these integrations. We don't write these. This is not Red Hat engineers sitting there writing integrations into all these products. We don't know all these different products, right? So these vendors themselves write these integrations and then work with us to certify them and provide them to their customers and our joint customers so that they can automate against those different technologies that I reference. So that's kind of one thing. Just the vast number of integrations, thousands of integrations that are available out of the box with Ansible. So it allows us to hit things, whether it's, again, I talked earlier about compute, that's the default, the easy one. Network, hugely popular. Storage admins, database admins, the cloud folks who need to be able to deploy and configure infrastructure on AWS and Azure and GCP, all of those things. And then it is to tie them into their systems of record. Almost every one of our customers, not almost everyone, a lot of our customers use ServiceNow, let's say, for example. So today you can go to the ServiceNow store, or you can come to the certified collection from Red Hat that allows you to just plug in this integration with ServiceNow and be able to be updating your systems of record in ServiceNow, or opening up tickets or closing tickets, etc. So we work to try and make a lot of these integrations available out of the box. And if there isn't one that is available out of the box, then there's usually somebody in the community that's doing that. And we have this enormous Ansible community, this robust Ansible community. You go out to galaxy.ansible.com, which is the community repo of contributions of integrations, and you just see thousands and thousands of pieces of work that people have done that you can use as your starting point to go out and do that same thing. So the again, back, I'm a little bit long-winded, but that answer here is that there's all the technical integrations you need, and there's a lot of those sort of business integrations into other systems management tools that you need that are there for you right away. So the kind of path to automation, the path to integration is very, very fast with Ansible.
Yeah, well, it's awesome, right? That we can, leverage some of the patterns, the templates that, our peers have, that the community has, all those partner integrations that you spoke of. One of the awesome things, at Red Hat and the communities we live in, also there's always new innovations coming. So anything you might be able to give a sneak peek as to, so some cool new things coming out of the innovation pipeline from the communities?
Yeah, and so in day two, we're going to talk a little bit about, and I talked a little bit about earlier about that day two ops, but what can we do to really help automate day two ops? And so we've been looking at event-driven architectures, and how can automation play a more integral role in those event-driven architectures. So you can hear us talk about EDA, and for Ansible, that doesn't stand for event-driven architectures, that stands for event-driven Ansible. So how can we extend Ansible and make it really easy to plug into event-driven architectures? So a lot of the work that goes on today, you have systems management tools monitoring applications and monitoring infrastructure and monitoring networks and turning up alerts about something that may be going haywire or something down, something's not performing, something's been, someone's trying to intrude here or there. That triggers off an alert. That usually goes to an engineering team somewhere or a operations team somewhere to go and investigate and address. And a lot of that is just repeatable rote things. So how could we plug, and some people call it AI ops or whatever, but plugging automation directly into that supply chain, if you will, of an event, an evaluation of the event, the kickoff of a remediation or an automation task to go and address that event, and then come back around and see if that addressed it. And if it didn't, then open up a ticket, or go out and automatically gather the information that an analyst would need to be able to assess that problem and try and get to the root cause faster. So we did a pilot with a large financial services institution a while back along these lines, which is, sense, evaluate, respond, and literally hundreds of thousands of events were able to be handled in an automated way. Tickets automatically open and close without a person having to touch them. As I go out and talk to customers about this, there's a lot of interest in that because there is a lot of work that just is, I go out, I get this alert, I go do this action, I fix that alert, I close the alert, I go on to the next one. Ansible can really take a lot of that work out. So we're going to be talking about event-driven Ansible on day 2. And then we have a really interesting new project that we're going to announce that I don't want to get too far out in front of, but it's all about making it a lot easier for people to create automation with Ansible. And one of our partners who's going to be up on the main stage with us talking about launching this project. We're really excited about this. The whole idea of Ansible is to ease the burden on operations and infrastructure teams, make it easier to automate. So how can we continue to lean into that? How do we make it even easier for Ansible? How could someone create automation without having to be an expert on the underlying domain that they're going against? So we're really excited about day 2 stuff. And I really encourage folks, I don't want to be too, slippery, but but I encourage folks to kind of tune in for that day 2 and this big announcement. It's an opportunity for the community and this new project we have to get involved with us.
Yeah, no, Tom, so some really interesting stuff, right? You take automation and then, that artificial intelligence, machine learning type of stuff, starting to see some of the intersections of those coming together, which lot of dialogue in the communities. I remember earlier this year, GitHub came out with an offering, and everybody was, debating, and if we reach the singularity in programming or whatnot. But lots of opportunity there, and it's great to see some of the new things. Looking forward to hearing the announcements and getting the community plugged in and involved. Awesome. Look, we've covered a lot of Fest. Want to get, as you mentioned earlier, you and I both talked to a lot of customers, in the briefing center. Where are most customers? As we said, automation is something that is, more broadly adopted. I think like this week, actually, one of the big RPA companies is holding their user conference. So, we hear, automation plays a lot of more than it might have in the past. Talk about automate first, the way you do things. What are some of the, stumbling blocks that you hear from customers, or how are any great examples you can give of customers that really have unlocked the power of automation?
Yeah, it's interesting. What the pandemic did was accelerate, I think, an already existing trend towards automation. It really, kind of woke up, for lack of a better term, or, that may not be a fair term, but it really energized the need to automate strategically and automate everything. I mean, so we've seen a lot of customers accelerate on that journey. We have this, how the analysts put together these maturity curves that have measurement points along that maturity curve. And we've seen an acceleration of folks. And like you, I spent a lot of time with customers, and I was with a customer a few weeks ago, and they were very, very proud of all of the automation work that they'd done, particularly around compute. But at the time, I wasn't sure how broad it had gone in the organization, that they had really staffed SREs around infrastructure provisioning and automation, and they were very proud of that. And then I said, I talked to them about those different domains in an organization when you cross the domain, and I assumed that they had all their domains already covered, and this was an extreme automation across their enterprise. And then when I asked them about network, they said, oh, network folks are different. They have their own thing that they do, right? So I still hear, as much as I hear about evolution along that path and maturity along that curve, there's still a long ways to go for a lot of customers. The customers that I hear from and that we talk to that are really doing well are those folks that have really built, I think, that have really adopted these communities of practicing that we talk about, these open source community principles, bring those down inside an organization to really sort of drive skills across the organization, the culture across the organization, and bring everybody along. I think that's probably the key message that I hear from customers, particularly those that are successful. I also hear customers talking about, how can I work with partners, right? I don't have the skills. I need partners. Can you help us, Red Hat? Do you have partners that can help us? So one of the keys for me is building that ecosystem around this, that we have a set of partners that can come in and help our customers along that path, because they just don't have the capacity or the bandwidth to be able to run their existing system and evolve to the next generation of systems. That's what I hear a lot of, Stu, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and Tom, I'll just echo. You raised a key point. Often it's, can we deploy something fast and get some early wins? Yes, but how long does it take to really diffuse an offering or a best practice across an organization and get through all of the nooks? And yeah, I mean, my background's networking. I understand that they often, are sitting off with a little bit of a different concerns. Awesome. So, hey, we've covered a lot here. There's still, for people that want to attend in Chicago, registration's still open, I believe. And there's also a virtual piece. So just to give you the final word as to, how do people plug in, learn either in person, virtually, or after the event?
Yeah, so like everybody, after the event, we'll put the content online, but go to ansible.com/AnsibleFest. All the details for both registration and the virtual event are there. We really look forward to welcoming the community. It's going to be so great to be back in person again and see a lot of old friends and make some new friends there. We're going to have your old friends from the Cube there. We'll be at AnsibleFest, so we'll be enjoying that. And we traditionally have a party on one night, as every conference does, where everybody gets to go out and let their hair down a little bit if they had it, right, Stu? And have some fun. So it's going to be a great event. And it's going to be a lot of sharing. It really is, the highlight of the Ansible team's year. I know Summit is Red Hat's big event every year, but within the team on AnsibleFest is really our event every year. And we just look forward to it so much and try and make it a great event for attendees and for partners and for the community to come to.
Awesome. Well, Tom, I hope you and the team and everybody attending has a great time in Chicago. I'm a little jealous. I won't be going, but the week after I will be right around the corner in Detroit for KubeCon, which for those of us in the cloud group, it's not our event, but it's really one of those big events. So looking forward to that. Check out the preview we did last week. On a quick programming note, just the month of October, there's a lot of travel going on. I've got a few things I'm speaking at, including the aforementioned KubeCon. So looking like I will have one broadcast in the month of October. So just take a look at the YouTube or the red.ht/live streaming always has the calendar of programming. So apologize if I'm a little off the normal cadence. We'll definitely pick up a few more shows in November. Was thrilled that we had 3 awesome shows here in October. So Tom, best of luck to you and the community. Thanks so much for joining us. And for everybody watching, please do check it out. Let us know, what information you'd like to know more of. If there's people or technologies that you'd like us to focus on this program, please do reach out. And thank you as always for joining us on your journey in the clouds.